And we're back. What do you say, Pookie Dog? A beautiful dog. You guys know I rescue dogs from the street. And this little boy's been here about a year now, and a good dog. So what's up, bros? Me, the professor, and I wanted to give you an update on my hair transplant. Because today is the first day that I was able to wash my hair and all of the scabs. Like I had the front done here and the back. So I had 360, what it's called. The first two of these widow's peaks, which look bald now, because when they transplant your hair, they take it out of the back, and after you're injected all up and have good and numb, they take what's called a sapphire blade. It's basically like a drill bit, and the ones that they take out of the this is the parts in the back. Took all these out, which was scabbed over. The whole back part of my head had like these teeny tiny little scabs. And so this morning, when I washed my hair, which by the way, you have to use a special type of foam soap that's kind of a Neutrogena version, of skin. Anyway, it's for really sensitive stuff. And so right here, this portion here, the widow speaks, that they transplanted from back here to up front. And it's interesting because I didn't know this. For the back of your hair, they take bunches of hair like plugs, like maybe 3 or 4 hairs per spot that they take out, and then they put it in the backpack here. And they put them at a certain angle so that it doesn't look all lopsided. The front of your hair is single individual hairs. So, like to say, if you had your whole front end done here, which I did not because I have good hair here, she said, but this portion here was individual hairs. So I had like two. It looked like I had like a tattoo on my head for the past week since Saturday, last Saturday was the day I had the transplant done. And well, what's it been like is like every day I have to be really careful not to bonk my head on stuff, and not go get exposed to any sunlight. So I've basically been stuck inside for an entire week, which is fine. I don't mind. The hairs that came out of the back, now I still have some. It doesn't hurt, but you can tell that you've had some skin trauma. So like it would be like if you fell one day, like when you were a kid, you scuffed up your knee and had a scab there. In about a week, it would fall off. You took baths every day. So every day I was trying not to touch my head because it's an instinctual feeling. Hey, what's up? You have these little tiny like scabs all over your head where they took the hairs out. Then you have scabs all over your head where they put the hairs in. The follicles is the main thing, the root, the bulbs or whatever. And then in a couple of few days, I mean, you're gonna wash it every day to keep the moisture in your hair and things like that. You're gonna spray the thermic gel or whatever the hell it's called on your head every day, and you have to take antibiotics 3 times a day to keep it from getting infected. The funny thing is that most people and all the guys I've seen who have had bad hair transplants, the ones that went to Turkey. I mean, you think about it, if you're flying all the way to Turkey to get a hair transplant, you're going to hope to God that you don't have problems because some of these dudes have been coming down here to Mexico or going to Thailand or going to other places. Turkey's the most famous for hair transplants. Is they will get a hair transplant, but they'll, first of all, just watching other people on YouTube that are getting these hair transplants are really guys that are out of shape. It sounds to me like a lot of them have very high estrogen levels. not high testosterone levels. Um, just take my word for it. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just telling you that these guys have really bad hygiene. They drink, they smoke. They just look like guys that should have stopped going to the club like 10 years ago. But they're going and they're getting these hair transplants done, and they're having bad reactions. One of the main ones I'm seeing, as far as like bad reactions to hair transplants, is inflammation. Like one guy had the Novocaine. That's all it is Novocaine. They stick you with Novocaine in your head. Um, they just that's all they did for me. They didn't give me any pills other than two antibiotics. The guy that the guy that went to Thailand, he's a YouTuber, sort of famous, but he's a drinker. And no sooner than he was done getting his transplant, he was already at a bar that night drinking alcohol. I mean, even with the cotton and the diaper on the back of his head, he was still at a bar. And 2 days after that, he was at the gym. They tell you, do not go to the gym, do not lift weights, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, don't do anything that's going to disrupt the blood flow to the top of your head. So what happened with me is nothing because I have a flawless diet. You know, you guys know I do bodybuilding and I'm doing anti-aging. As much as I can, I avoid doing anything that's going to disrupt this because you only have so many donation hairs. Once those are gone, they're gone. They're not going to go back. So you have to be really careful not to hit your head on anything. Well, the only time anything happened to my head, twice actually, was on my way back from the hospital in the Uber. The Uber driver pulled all. We live on a ranch out in the middle of nowhere, so it's a dirt road. And just as we're pulling up to the main gate, he hits a pothole like this, and my head hit the handle on the ceiling, and that was like give me a big old gash on the side, and immediately blood started coming out because all the follicles in my hair are basically on fire. I know they're not on fire, but I don't feel anything. But they're under a lot of pressure. So the blood pressure was right there on the top of my head. I was like, oh no, put my finger in there and I was like, damn it. But that's the only thing that happened other than, well, one of the dogs um, playing on the couch or something like that and like hit me on the head like that. But nothing happened because you got to be really careful when you have dogs not to lay down. If don't let your dog sleep in the bed with you. Get all shiny silk pillowcases. Okay, I don't have a neck pillow because these damn dogs ate the fucking thing. So instead, I have a really nice like um, throw. I have a really soft blanket, and it's not very big. And I rolled that thing up like this. And I stuck around my neck and tied it around my neck. So basically, my head would not be touching the pillow at night. And you have to sit. Basically, we have to sleep almost at a 45-degree angle every night as to not disrupt the follicles, the roots. Because if you do and they fall out, then they're done. Because you got to expect that a good percentage of these follicles are going to fall out. And you can't really see. I'm going to show you up close so that you can tell. All right, right here is a little triangle. Okay, and this is what they did in the front on both sides. This little patch here is basically empty. It has all the roots in it, but all of the scabs came off. And like I said, for a week, I basically had these big triangles on my head like this. And in the back, you can see here on the crown of my head, okay, it was this big round thing of nasty looking scabs, which I couldn't disrupt because I didn't want the follicles falling out. Now, after, like I said, if you're going to travel and you're going to go long distance and you're going to, pay money, and fortunately for me, I didn't have to pay it all at once. I paid in advance instead. So every month I was paying and paying and paying and paying and paying until it was done, and paid it off. And in December, which is this month, I got my appointment. So, and we had to be there 8 in the morning, which, by the way, the hospital where I went is about an hour and a half away from the ranch. So it was quite a logistical thing to get out of here at five something in the morning just to get to the station, which takes you straight there. And getting off the bus, like literally in the middle of the highway, in the middle of nowhere, which I don't know where I am, going up the side of the highway, which the with the overpass is, and then from the overpass taking an Uber to the hospital to get there 15 minutes early because they were like be on time. The operation is supposed to be 12 hours long. The last thing I want to do is waste a minute being late or screwing around. I'm never late to anything. So the point is that these two widow's peaks here, after 10 days, all of the scabs are gone, and you can't rub on these things. You had to be really careful because these are literally the roots. Now they're in about 5 to 7 days. So today's day 10. By day 10, the roots are established, but you're not going to be seeing hair for at least a month, 3 months. Then about 6 months, you're going to see the density of the area starting to come in because it'll start to grow their own hairs. Then by a year, you'll have a whole head of hair, hopefully. Then if you're really, really bad off, sometimes by a year and a half, it'll all fully grow in. So this is an investment in time and into yourself. So thinking that you're just going to go and get patchwork done, it doesn't work that way. They're not going to just take these hairs out and put them in there and then you're ready to get a haircut in a month. It doesn't work that way. And it's not complicated, but like I said, some of the complications that some of the people have had getting hair transplants have been inflammation is the number one thing. I saw a guy that had the Karate Kid headband on the bandage after he got out of the hospital, and he took the bandage off, and his whole forehead, his entire head, was swollen up like a mushroom. One guy, his whole side of his face from the Novocaine made his eyes shut, and all of his cheek was like this big. Again, these are people who are out of shape, who have horrible diets, who drink, that are party goers and all that stuff that, you know, probably don't eat very, very clean because they're YouTubers and they get paid pretty good for doing YouTube videos. And especially when you're going to go all the way to Turkey, and the food is so good in Turkey. It's outstanding. If you guys didn't know, I love Turkish food. I highly recommend going to Turkey, at least while you can, and getting after it. So get your money right, book your flight to wherever. If you're coming from Europe, go to Turkey, period. If you're in North America, South America, Central America, go to Mexico, go to Colombia. I don't know much about Colombia's hair transplant. I know that Mexico is very well known for eyes, teeth, and hair transplants. The You can get facial reconstruction done, and you get a nose job and a boob job and all that BBL stuff. But I would rather, you would think, because Colombia is well known for that, I would go to Cali, Colombia instead of Medellin if you're talking about price, but you're still going to get excellent quality. You've not seen, a lot of the women in Medellin are beautiful, but they look different than the women in Cali. They're like two different races. One, I think, has more Lebanese. Medellin is more mixed with Lebanese, and the women in Cali are more mixed with the Spanish girls. And they're all beautiful in their own way. They have long hair down to the butt. They have perfect faces. They don't drive cars, so they're never fat. But they're often, pimped out by their parents to marry a rich man. So they go and they get boob jobs done, which are amazing to look at. And a lot of times they'll take the fat out of their stomach and inject it into the butt So they have perfect butts and perfect boobs to go along with their perfect face and their long hair. So, and their sweet personalities. But aside from all that, I'm here in Mexico. This was about 2,500 bucks to get done, and the cost in Los Angeles is anywhere from 15 to 18,000 US dollars. I think one went over 25,000 because I got a few estimates. The ones in Mexico City are anywhere between $3,000 and $6,000 for the whole head. The most I ever heard was 120,000 pesos, which is about $6,000, which is in Guadalajara. By the way, Guadalajara is where the most beautiful women, I think, in the country might be. And comparatively, you can go on YouTube and look at women in Colombia versus women in Guadalajara, and you will be like astounded at how beautiful the both of them are, as well as Turkish women, beautiful girls. The thing about getting hair transplants, you want to go to where there are a lot of clinics that have really good feedback on their Google Maps. The reason why I say Google Maps is because they don't have other like Foursquare and things like that down here in Mexico. They exclusively use Google Maps and Facebook for their feedback for their businesses. Facebook is more popular in Mexico than any other apps. I don't know why, but that's the truth. Less on Instagram, more on Facebook. But you can go on Google Maps once you have the name of a place that you like or you're researching or whatever, and you're checking around for prices on their Google Maps. It'll have 1 to 5 stars, and as many clients who have left feedback on their on their Google Maps because they can't erase it. Once people have written feedback, unless they edit it, that stuff's on there. So I looked through a lot of different places, and they're all relatively good. It's the plastic surgeons that have kind of dodgy feedback as far as getting your nose job done or something like that. They might say that the doctors are very attentive, getting your money, and then not so attentive if you have problems. Not the case here. This is like really literally catered for the anti-aging community because we're really close to San Miguel de Allende, which is just loaded with rich gringos. Mexico City has lots of rich gringos too, but it's a city that's massive, and there's like one zone that seems to be all gringos. But where I am way out here, there are no tourists at all, none. I haven't heard a person speak a word of English, and I've been here almost 2 years here in this spot where I've not heard one person speak English. Only people who speak English to me are Mexicans who live in the States. So you can get a lot of good information off of Google Maps as far as if you find a place to do a hair transplant, you want to fix it in place, you want to find out where the closest airport is. You want to find an Airbnb that's close by. You want to get transport with Uber. You want to ensure that you update with your bank that you're going to be using your credit card or your debit card overseas. Because if you don't, you might get shut down. It's happened to me in Germany. It's happened to me in the Dominican. It's happened to me in Colombia. It's happened to me in Panama many, many, many times in Panama. So you want to make sure that you clear things with your bank before you come down so you can use your debit card or your credit card because no one's going to carry around that much cash. That's ridiculous. Because when you get these hair transplants done, you pay a deposit in advance that's non-refundable. It doesn't have to be that much either. I think I put like $250 down as a deposit for my surgery. And that's exactly what I started off with. So I started with the first place. Yeah. I started off with the first place that was the first place I looked at. They did plastic surgery on the nose, they did plastic surgery on the face, lips for women. Like they could take your eyes and make you look surprised. They do Botox, they do all that stuff. The first place I went, they checked me out. They said I didn't have enough hair follicles for my transplant here in the back. Then the second place, like literally had like a microscope that they put on my donation area, and they had a big, display, like a big monitor, and they could count like how many hairs that I had in this one little spot, right here for this little spot, right there. So that was really helpful. The easiest thing for me to do was try to find a place that was close to where I live or close to transport. Because once you have the operation done, you might be bleeding, and I didn't want to be bleeding all over an Uber. And I'm not flying anywhere, but some people have to fly back to the country that they came from. And so I had this stuff back here done, all this back here, and I had the front here. And all of the scabs are all gone now. All that stuff is gone. And now it's all of a waiting game because you don't have to see any hairs coming out for a month. Once the hairs start coming out, they're going to be teeny tiny, like little baby hairs. They might fall out again, and then in 3 months, you'll have thicker hairs. And then by 6 months, you'll be able to get a haircut. But I'm not touching my hair. This is going to take a year to a year and a half before you have a whole full head of hair. So I'm not real worried about it. The biggest concern you want to have that when you're traveling is you can't have anything happen. It hit your head so that it knocks the roots loose. You got to be real careful of the temperature, the water you wash your hair with. You got to be careful that you keep it clean with the special foam. And you can't even do your hair like this. You have to like tap it to put the foam on like this. And the instructions that I got initially is like put it on and wash it off. Then at the day 7, you leave it on because you got scabs that are disgusting and they're all over your head. And you put this foam on there and it softens them up. So when you wash your hair, you're like looking at these disgusting little baby scabs like raining down. And it feels great, but they don't all fall out the same day. And you got to be careful that you don't scratch them with your nails or anything like that because you don't want them to get infected. You don't want them falling out. You don't want to get hit in the head by anything. And you got to be careful when you sleep because you're not paying any attention. So you have to keep your head elevated while you're sleeping. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass the first week. So now I'm at day 10, and I wanted to show you that my regular hair is obviously growing back in because they shave your head bald with a razor all the way down to the nub, and that's how they do their extractions. But that is the update. Let me show you the back because you can see there's just on the crown of my head, it was like one big round spot. And I wanted to get that done because every time I did a video, like sometimes the cameras are way up high and they look down on me like this. And I have this bald ass head. And I'm not going to wear a fucking wig. I'm just going to put the other thing was that you have to use finasteride and minoxidil at about day 21. And if you're on TRT, you have to be off TRT for at least the first 20 something days. So no TRT. But what's helped me a lot, and the peptides I wanted to mention to you, is the copper peptide and growth hormone. So those two things in combination help grow your hair back. Actually, it'll help heal your head, heal the wounds in your head so that the follicles don't fall out. But if you're on any kind of TRT, that you need to stop at least 2 weeks prior to your operation, and you want to make sure you use a DHT shampoo, which you don't have to buy anything fancy. The dandruff shampoo, the most medicinal type, that will knock out all the DHT on your hair. You don't have to buy anything expensive. That's ridiculous, a marketing scam. So anyway, if you got any questions about that, because we went over my teeth, I got all my teeth done. And like I said, you can get your teeth done in the States and it'll cost you anywhere from 9 to 25,000 for porcelains, or you can come to Mexico and you get them. Mine were $150 a tooth, so which is a steal to me. And they work great. And I had a ridge done. I got all my fillings fixed. Anything that was wrong with my teeth, the guy fixed it, and it was over time. It wasn't like one shot and it was like 8 hours later of surgery. No, I was like 1 week, and then another week, and then another week, and then another week, and then finally, when my teeth came in from the States, because they do like a porcelain 3D printing thing with the images of your teeth, they ship that off to the States, and then they ship your teeth back, and then they install them all. And then that was the end of it. It was easy. But no infection, no inflammation. Gotta have your diet right. If you want to have no inflammation, no problems, if you have your diet on point, really on point, like you're not eating anything that's going to cause inflammation, like seed oils and eating garbage and lots of sugar, you're not gonna have a problem. And I did not have any problems whatsoever. They're almost done, like completely healed my head within a week. But that's because I'm using GHK copper peptides, which like superhuman abilities to heal. And especially at my age, at 53 years old this month. Thank you very much. So I feel good about everything I did. So I hope if you have any questions, just write it down in there in the comments at the bottom. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you later.